Another day, another Derby profile. Today's episode is going to be on Confidence Game. Let's go. First things first, we got the stats. 7 starts, 3 firsts, 1 second, 2 thirds, and earnings of $785,525. His major races go as far back as the very first Kentucky Derby prep, a 5th in the Iroquois Stakes, a 3rd in the Lecomte Stakes, and a victory in the Rebel Stakes, which solidified his spot in the Derby field. Unsurprisingly, his victory in the Rebel Stakes was also where he got his highest speed figure, which according to the DRF is a 94, which is good, but not great, but I'm going to give him some slack considering that it was on a sloppy surface, which is also a bit of a strength, which we'll talk about a bit later. His running style can be executed in a few ways. His 2 victories at Churchill Downs were both done gate to wire, but his performance in the Rebel Stakes, he was mid-pack at the start, and then made a good sweeping move to win, so he can do a bit of both. Now on to strengths, which Confidence Game has quite a few of. 2 of his 3 career victories were at Churchill Downs, so he absolutely loves the surface and has more experience on it than any other horse in this field. His victory in the Rebel Stakes also proved that he did not need the lead to win, and also that he could handle a sloppy track, which is something to keep in mind if it does happen to rain on the first Saturday in May. It also helps that Confidence Game has plenty of experience against other Derby contenders. In November, he won an allowance race over Rocket Can, who went on to win the Holy Bull Stakes and then finished second in the Fountain of Youth. And in the Rebel Stakes, Reincarnate and Verifying were both beaten by Confidence Game and went on to make it into the Derby starting gate as of now. Also, his victories came on fast paces, so if the pace is fast, he is going to like it. But this can also be seen as a bad thing, because his defeats in the Lecomte Stakes and the Iroquois Stakes were done with slower paces, so if the Derby does end up slow, that's not going to be good for him. The other more important thing when it comes to Confidence Game is his time between races. His last start, the Rebel Stakes, was on February 25th, 2023, and the Kentucky Derby will be in the first Saturday in May. Now, that doesn't sound like a huge deal, but historically, the longest break that a Kentucky Derby winner has had was authentic, which was 49 days, and that was during the pandemic Derby, so that barely even counts. Even if we do include authentic winning the Kentucky Derby in September, 49 days is still a much lighter break compared to the 70 days that Confidence Game is going to have between the Rebel Stakes and the Kentucky Derby. Now, there probably is some Kentucky Derby horse who took a break that was longer than that, probably like 100 years ago, but in recent memory, no horse has taken such a long break before the Derby and then won. So history is going to be a real thorn in Confidence Games' side, and a thorn in my confidence in Confidence Games' game. That was a lot of words. In short, Confidence Game does have a lot of pros, and it is nice to see a horse with a lot of experience with Churchill Downs, but the break between the Rebel and the Kentucky Derby is more than enough to put me off of him. So for that, I will give Confidence Game a B- grade. And that concludes today's episode of Derby Profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and tell me which horses I should put on my priority list. See you guys next time.